Hello and welcome. Today I would like to talk about authenticity and living your own truth. Personally, I have found that it's the answer to many issues I have been dealing with since childhood. I've come to believe that it's the key to mental health and fulfillment. It's not the only key, of course, but it's a major key. I might even go as far as saying that it's a crucial key to happiness, whatever happiness means. But disclaimer, I'm not a doctor and I'm not a therapist. I am solely speaking out of personal experience. I am sharing with you my insights, my personal realizations, and I hope it will be of value to you. But first of all, my apologies, as usual, that I have to rely on my script and that I can't talk more freely. But unfortunately, English is not my first language and I have a lot to say, so without a script I would be just lost. Okay, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself. For a long time, well, most of my life really, I've been struggling with physical and mental issues. These things have been with me for so long and have become so chronic that they've become a part of me, of my identity, to the point where I can hardly imagine feeling any other way. And when you're constantly unwell, then you feel like you have to heal, like you must do something, change something in order to get better. As if something is fundamentally wrong with you, as if something is broken inside of you. It feels like a curse that clings to you. I also developed depression quite early on in my youth. For years I've searched for treatments and therapies, always with the feeling that something about me had to change. If only I could do or achieve this or that, then things might get better. Because in the end, it all comes down to one idea. If I could just better adapt to the world, if I could live up to external expectations, whether they are nature's expectations by, for example, eating better or exercising or taking better care of my body and so on, or society's expectations. If I could just change mentally, fit in, try harder to be more like the rest of the world, if I could only manage to push past my limits, leave my comfort zone, then surely things must get better. Things would have to get better. That must be the goal. So I thought. I've always felt like I was lacking something, like I had some sort of deficit, as if I constantly had to catch up to others who didn't seem to struggle the way I did. Like others could run faster and were better trained, while I was gasping for air and trying to keep up, unable to match their pace and wondering where they got all that energy and stamina and resilience from. Those were the kinds of thoughts I used to have, like there's something wrong with me, I'm not enough the way I am, not good enough, I'm not as good as others, I can't cope as well, I'm not up to it. The truth is, I've always felt different. I've always lived very much in my own world, always had difficulties with social situations, and I've always been extremely shy and introverted. I've constantly felt pressured by the outside world. I felt forced, almost violated. I felt as though the outside world was intruding on my inner space, forcefully pushing its way in. There's always been a deep resistance within me, a sense of discomfort in relation to the world. I never truly wanted to interact with the world. I was forced to. I felt forced to interact. Contact and interaction with humans and with the world as such has always been very stressful for me. It doesn't come naturally to me. Whether it's small talk or any kind of social interaction, it costs me a great deal of energy and effort. I tried to change all of this through various therapies and techniques and courses and so on. I tried to adapt, to develop my skills. I hoped that if I improved my skills, especially my social skills, I would become healthier, more satisfied, more fulfilled. I thought that if I became more like others, if I opened up more, engaged more with the world, and worked hard enough on myself, I would eventually be able to step out of my shadow, expand my limits, and overcome my negative traits. In other words, to overcome the nature I was born with, my God-given nature. After all, my experience had shown me that I was unhappy and unwell because I constantly clashed with the world, because I didn't seem to get along with it, and because everything overwhelmed me. So the logic was, if my own nature is what makes me sick, if it causes me nothing but pain and struggle, if it is apparently incompatible with the rest of the world, then it must be changed. The way I was clearly wasn't good enough. So I didn't just try to change myself, I tried to deny myself. And this feeling that my nature as it is a kind of sickness or weakness, was reinforced by the realization that certain parts of me are simply not accepted or not welcomed by others. I noticed that some of my traits triggered rejection or withdrawal in others. The moment I showed these sides of myself too much, people would pull away, react negatively, show no understanding, or they would simply not know how to deal with them. I felt treated like a lesser man for showing these sides of me. This applies especially to my depression, my tendency toward melancholy, and my sensitivity and emotional depth, which, as a man, is particularly problematic. Depression and mental struggles are rarely welcomed. Most people don't know how to handle them. And sensitivity or emotional fragility is even more difficult when you are a man. When you're more delicate, more fragile, and you don't radiate self-confidence or zest for life, that's often perceived as rather unattractive, at least in my experience, despite what people might tell you. So I learned that certain parts of me are considered not only problematic and unacceptable, but also unattractive and a turn-off. And if I want to be accepted by others, if I want to leave a good impression, if I want to be liked or to be loved, then I would have to pretend. I have to hide certain parts of myself. I have to deny certain aspects of who I am. You could call them shadow aspects, though it's really others who see them that way, not me. I myself don't see them as negative, but as integral to myself. But others tend to judge these parts negatively, and when I express them too openly, I provoke negative reactions. That makes me deeply sad and weighs very heavily on me, because these are exactly the parts of myself that matter very much to me, because I perceive them as essential parts, and I feel a strong need to express them. Being able to do so would greatly contribute to my health and my inner balance. And they are exactly the parts who are most in need of love and recognition and acceptance. Especially my melancholic, depressive, sensitive, wounded and vulnerable side. These are the hurting, the aching parts that long to be confronted, to be embraced and to be seen, which means that I had to deny the greater part and the most essential part of who I am. And that's what made me ill, without a shadow of a doubt. Of course, you could say, why should you care about what others think? I live my true nature without shame. Well, yes, sure, but unfortunately the truth is, as human beings, we are inherently driven by the need for love. We want to be loved and accepted. We are born with a natural drive for survival, and as infants or young children, we can only survive by staying in good standing with the people around us. We depend entirely on their love, their acceptance, their affection and their protection. And so, from a very early age, we begin to learn how to please others, how to please those who provide that safety and that care. We learn to follow their rules, to meet their expectations, to model ourselves after them. More and more we begin to understand, if I do this or that, I am loved, I'm accepted, I'm appreciated. And then I get to be part of the group. And being part of a group is a deeply rooted human instinct. We are social creatures. There's no denying it. We want to belong. We want to be accepted by the group. For a normal human being, the worst thing is being an outcast, being rejected by the group. This reminds me of the old Anglo-Saxon poem The Wanderer. In Anglo-Saxon culture, one of the worst possible fates was to become an outcast, not to belong to any clan. And that's the kind of feeling I've had since my childhood. The feeling of being an outcast, of not really belonging, and deep down, not even wanting to belong, actually. It was both. It was feeling that there's something wrong with me and that others can't accept me the way I am, and that I'm not like them, but I also always had my own trepidations about really belonging. There was always a hesitation within myself. And I've always had this feeling, and I still have this feeling, of not finding my crowd, my people, so to speak, not finding acceptance. I quite often feel like an alien, like I'm different somehow, like there's something about me that makes me seem odd or awkward, something that unsettles others. I think to myself, there must be something different about me. Otherwise, people would respond to me the same way they respond to others, right? So I tell myself I have to hide my true nature. I have to imitate the behavior of others, so they'll treat me the same way they treat everyone else. Even though, ironically, I usually don't even want the same treatment, because most of what normal interaction requires doesn't interest me at all. I always feel like I'm playing a role, and that brings us to another important point. The playing and adopting of roles, the development and wearing of masks, or masking as it's often called. We all wear masks in social settings. It's unavoidable. To some extent, we all play roles. We all perform. because we all want to be accepted, we want to belong. And we've learned to shape ourselves accordingly to the expectations of others, to only show the sides of ourselves that are welcomed. From an early age, we all learn to hide, to mask, or to soften certain parts of ourselves. That's the price for social acceptance, for most of us. So to a certain extent, this is, sadly, normal. The real question is, how much do we have to hide? How much does it cost us in terms of energy and authenticity? How exhausting is it? How much of ourselves do we have to deny, to suppress, or twist just to fit in? And how much do we suffer because of it? For some, the cost is quite low. For others, like me, the price feels unbearably high. The inner contortion I go through feels extreme. And accordingly, it is incredibly stressful and exhausting and draining having to do this soul contortion, I might call it. I have to conceal some of the most important parts of myself, as I already said, and I have to do it constantly. It's so exhausting having to do it constantly, every day, in every interaction, almost every minute of your life. It doesn't feel like I'm just putting on a mask, as it might for others. It rather feels like I have to put on a full bodysuit, like an alien pretending to be a human. For most people, making small talk or being friendly or finding common ground or following social conventions and so on isn't a big deal. It's not a big effort. It comes easily and naturally to them. They don't have to think about it. For me though, even the most basic, everyday interactions can be an enormous source of stress. Any kind of contact with the outer world drains me. And as a result, I often feel permanently exhausted. I feel low in energy, and I feel very tense, bodily tense, with a high muscle tension. I constantly feel like I have to hold myself together. And that tension, that physical tension, manifests itself very clearly on a psychosomatic level. My body is speaking a very clear language. All of this has led to me losing my connection to my authentic self at a very young age. As a result, I developed a deep sense of insecurity. I lost touch with my intuition and my gut feeling. I learned that in order to survive, I have to look to others for guidance. And because of that, I stopped listening to my own inner voice. My true nature was always there. I could feel it, especially through my reactions to things, and especially my negative reactions to things in the outside world. I could clearly sense the resistance inside of me, the aversion, the discomfort. But instead of seeing that as a meaningful expression, as a valid, important signal from my inner self trying to communicate, I saw it as a problem. Rather than honoring that innate feeling and listening to it, I tried to change it, to reshape it, so I could function better in the world. Even though I did it reluctantly, always very hesitantly and with great inner resistance. And part of me, untouched by all the insecurity, remained firm and unyielding throughout. That part kept saying over and over again, no. Why should I? I don't want to. I feel good and right the way I am. Why can't the world adapt to me? I want to stand my ground. I have a right to exist, a right to be expressed, to be heard, to be acknowledged. That part of me never completely vanished. It never gave in. It strongly resisted every attempt to change it. That part, that voice, which represents my true self, no longer wants to bend itself according to the will of others. It no longer wants to be talked into things, to be constantly bullied or silenced. Above all, it no longer wants to be seen as something broken, something sick or abnormal, as something that isn't good enough the way it is. That voice inside of me has at long last achieved a decisive victory. It finally managed to make itself heard within me. Finally, it was able to push through and rise above all the other voices. Through a series of repeatedly negative experiences, I reached a point where I was completely fed up. I was fed up that certain aspects of my personality, which actually mean a great deal to me and which I value very highly, were receiving no recognition and no goodwill. I was sick and tired of having to constantly deny those parts of myself that are so important to me. I wanted to finally live them without shame. I felt a strong urge to break free. To me, these special traits, which are shunned by the majority, carry something noble, something dignified. And so I thought to myself, why should I keep letting these things which I regard as profoundly meaningful be talked down or dismissed by others? On the contrary, I want to celebrate them. Ideally, I would even like to share them with others. And that's how I started reflecting on how I might express and live these sides of myself more openly and freely, and how I might even find recognition or at least like-minded people who feel the same way. To finally receive some kind of confirmation, some kind of resonance. That's what led me to the idea of using social media as a way to show myself and to connect. And so I made a decision to strive for more authenticity. Now, I'm not saying that I've already achieved 100% authenticity. By no means. It's an ongoing process. I am still learning, of course. But simply realizing and resolving to become more authentic, to make a stance, that in itself was already a major achievement and a very important step forward. It's liberating, it's a relief, and it's self-empowering. From the moment I made that decision, formed that intention, took that stand, I immediately began to feel better. It was really quite fascinating and incredible to witness the impact this realization and this decision had on my overall well-being. Just the intention alone, the resolution itself, just that symbolic first step was already very empowering. It gave me strength and it gave me momentum. It sets something in motion inside of me. Now, it doesn't mean that I was healed overnight, but it was a step in the right direction. I can feel that. I sense it clearly. And I hope to continue building on it through my social media projects, to move forward even more in striving for more authenticity, to reconnect even more deeply with myself, and to live my truth, my personal truth, more fully. This is the path of healing I've chosen for myself. By creating a space for myself, a space where I can be myself, express myself freely, show myself, where my interests, my passions, and my unique gifts can finally be seen and appreciated and put to good use, and where I hope, of course, to meet like-minded souls and experience real resonance. The great challenge, the ultimate end goal, would be to take this authenticity, this newfound authenticity, beyond that special, protected, small, little space, and to bring it into all the other areas of my life. But that's an entirely different matter. For now, all I want is to create a small space where I can spread my wings, so to say. And if I can draw strength from that, collect positive experiences, and build up my self-confidence, then maybe I can start to carry that authenticity into other areas of my life as well. But, step by step. What I want is to share my true self with you, and all my passions and my emotions. And to talk about things, all kinds of things that move me, that mean the world to me, and that sometimes keep me up at night. For me, living my true self also means expressing and proudly embracing my romantic side. I already made a video about that in which I came out as a romantic, but as I said in that video, romantic means something very specific to me. It's not just about being in love or having a soft spot for romantic things. For me, it means much more. It means, among other things, being a melancholic, a rebel, a poet, an aesthete, being world-weary and full of longing, full of striving for the ideal and being at odds with the real, and many other things. I use the word romantic not in the conventional sense, but as a deeply personal, self-descriptive term. It's a very individual, specific use of the word. And being authentic for me also means showing my negative or less attractive sides. That means if I'm depressed, then I'm depressed. I won't pretend. I won't hide my true feelings. I won't put on a show or force a smile or act cheerful when I'm not. I finally want to be liked for my true, authentic, unfiltered self. Not for some inauthentic, tortured version of me that's desperately trying to please everyone to fit in. So this channel is intentionally meant only for those who aren't put off by this kind of honesty, but who can actually appreciate it. If I wanted to pretend, I already have plenty of opportunities to do that in my everyday life. But here, on this channel, I want to be unfiltered. I'm done living an inauthentic life. I want to finally stand up to myself. I want to be proud of myself. And without hesitation, live my truth. My truth, not someone else's. So, my message to you is clear. Live your own truth and become who you are. Self-denial makes you sick. At its core, self-denial means running away from yourself, rejecting yourself, splitting off parts of who you are. When you respond to the right, natural impulses within you, your energy flows freely and fully. If you don't, it leads to frustration, blocked energy, and inner imbalance. If you don't stay true to yourself, if you don't live your own truth, find your own truth and then live it, then you will get problems. Undeniably. On many different levels. on a mental as well as a physical level. I talk from experience. Because if you always suppress your truth or your true feelings, if you always try to be someone else, if you always feel frustrated and depressed and despondent because of that, then you will suffer, one way or the other. I know what I'm talking about because I have been struggling with these kinds of problems for many, many years. And I just got more and more frustrated, depressed, despondent, hopeless, and ill. Until I finally had the crucial realization that living your own truth is the key. It really is the key. That's how you get back into balance. Authenticity is the key because it helps you to live your true purpose. To hell with everything that tries to steal or undermine your uniqueness. Screw what others try to make you believe. Screw what the world wants you to do or to be. Screw what's considered normal. Embrace your symptom. That's my message for you. For whatever reason, the world has shaped me in this particular way. I was formed in this particular way, so I'm done trying to be someone else. And I most certainly won't apologize for it anymore. I feel entitled to be who I am and to hold the worldview that I have. I no longer want to force myself to develop a more positive attitude just because so-called normies claim that this is the proper way of looking at things. The world is insane, bizarre, absurd, and only a crazy person would try to make sense of this monstrosity that we call reality and try to live a so-called normal life within its, quite frankly, appalling confines. From my point of view, it's the normies who are truly insane. Living in total denial, either unaware or unwilling to acknowledge, because they are too cowardly, what kind of horrendous, scandalous, ludicrous, abysmal shit show we are actually living in. Most people naively play their parts in this gigantic cosmic play without ever questioning their roles or the play itself. They never try to look behind the curtain or beneath the stage floor, so to speak. And this is what we call normality? This absurd thing we call everyday life? This is normal? Really? Well, if that's true, then I want no part in it. And I'm proud to be different. Proud to see, feel, think, and experience the world differently. In my own terms, in my own special way. And now you're telling me that the very things I'm proud of, the things I identify with, that I believe are entirely valid, those are the things that I'm supposed to be ashamed of? I'm supposed to feel guilty about them? I'm supposed to believe that they are the problem? That they are what's making me sick? You want to pathologize them? You want to hold them against me? You want me to feel bad about them? No, sir. Not anymore. I won't see these things as limitations or weaknesses any longer. It's who I am. It's just my nature. Full stop. So much for now. I guess I might do some follow-up videos on the topics of authenticity and living your own truth, just because they are so important and there's so much more to say and to explore, but I'm not sure about that yet. We'll see. As usual, I'd love to hear from you. I encourage you to leave a comment, and please feel free to share your own thoughts and your own experiences. I am always eager to hear from you and to get a response. So that's it for today, and I say until we meet again, good night out there, whoever, whatever, and wherever you might be. Bye bye.